Hello and welcome to another Advanced Virtual Reality Framework or AVRF for Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. And this one is about security cameras. Security cameras are this nice little addition to AVRF that allows you to set up security cameras like the one you see over there in your levels, and the camera will track whenever it sees a pawn in range, and it will move around and it will do all sorts of things. So it's a very nice additional dynamic feature in your level. Now another thing that it has is when you set up the camera, you can add to it a number of monitors. So a monitor is a security monitor that looks just like this one. And the security monitor will display the view of the camera. And you can add a number of security monitors to the same camera. Now, one thing I do suggest is to make sure that you change the rendering size of the camera from 1900 by 1080 pixels to about 250 by 250 pixels to render in a monitor of that size. Otherwise, your performance is going to be really hurt, especially in virtual reality. So this is a standard behavior of AVRF, which, by the way, is again, all this that you see here is standard AVRF behavior right out of the box. And in fact, my tutorials are generally, or are all, total standard out of the box AVRF, and I make them in a single take. Well, barring technical difficulties, of course. But the reason why I do those in a single take is simply to show you that it's not very complicated to do what I'm doing. There's nothing complex about it. It's just once you know how to do it, you know how to do it. So this is again standard out-of-the-box stuff. I won't explain to you how it works. It's really easy. However, the one thing you can do that is very cool is to use the security camera as the camera that is going to go on the monitor of the computer. So what we call the spectator mode. So you can take that and then record it. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. In fact, I'm looking at a security camera, not a regular camera. I'm looking at a security camera that's tracking my movements. Of course, you can see that right there. Hello. And that rendering target is being displayed on my monitor, and I'm recording the video of my monitor so I can make this tutorial. So I'm going to show you how to do that with blueprints. Okay, so here we are in the level that I use for those tutorials that the people from AVRF also use. And the first thing we're going to do is to try to understand how the VR pawn works. And so we're going to open that and understand what's happening there. What you want to look at is, first of all, those numbers. So when you press the button 1, it sets the spectator mode to mode 1, button 2, spectator mode to mode 2, etc., etc. And the event set spectator mode is right below, and it starts by switching. So 0 actually is the VR mode, and 1 would show you what the VR person sees in a single eye crop to fill in the spectator mode. And again, the spectator mode is really the screen that is attached to the computer. So when somebody is using the VR headset, somebody else could be sitting at the computer and will look at the spectator screen, which is basically the default monitor of the screen. And what I did in this tutorial is in fact record the screen. So what we're going to do is to put this camera, the security camera, in our level and output the what the security camera sees onto the screen. So this is number one. Number two is the other spectator screen mode, et cetera, et cetera. And these things spawn a spectator pawn that we really don't need. So we're not at all interested in any of this part. The only thing that we're looking at is the way this thing is structured. What we're going to do, and again, this can be done in many different ways. You could modify the pawn VR itself, or you can do many other things. What I like to do is to subclass the pawn VR into my own pawn. And inside this subclass, I'm going to do a couple of things. Let me delete this. Okay, so what this pawn here did was create an event when you tap the key 5, and it sets spectator mode 5. And here we modified the spectator mode event of our parent class, where we added the mode 5. And when we add the mode 5, we grab the security camera, we get its render target, we assign the render target to the spectator screen texture, and then we set the spectator screen mode to texture. That's all there is to it. And this way, when we tap the number 5, whatever the security camera 1 is recording goes out on the monitor of your computer. So now we're going to add another camera. In order to add another security camera, we're just going to do the same thing. And here, it's going to be input key 6, mode 6. So now we're at mode 6. We're going to add a switch on int at pin. That's number 6. We're going to copy these over, and we're going to add another security camera. Sorry, I did this earlier, so we're going to do this again. We're going to add a variable called security camera 2, and it's of type security camera tracking, and there we go. So we added that. We're going to use that security camera to apply to this. So it does exactly the same thing as the previous one. So now when you press 5, you're looking at security camera 1 output. When you press 6, you're looking at security camera 6 output. We compile and save. And that's it. That's it for the pawn. The next thing we're going to do, and again, this can be done many different ways, is we need to add a camera. Well, this is only done in one way, but afterwards we can find different ways of doing things. But now what we're going to do is to add another camera to the level. So we take a security camera and we show it here. Nice camera. And we're going to turn it, pull it back. There you go. So now we have a second camera, BP Security Camera Tracking 2. Now, as I said earlier, there are many ways of assigning this camera to the pawn, and that's the key to doing this. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use the blueprint of this level. So I'm opening the level blueprint, and here you see that, well, first of all, you can forget all of this part. That's irrelevant to us right now. In event begin play, the first thing it does is it delays for 2 seconds, and it gets the player pawn. If it fails, it tries again. It delays again for 200 milliseconds and tries to get the player pawn again. Once it succeeds, it grabs the PP security camera tracking and assigns it to the pawn security camera 1 variable. Now, the reason we're doing this delay and loop is that the level is loading and event begin play is triggered before the pawn is actually built, properly built. So what we're doing is just delaying and waiting for the pawn to be ready, and everybody's happy. This was for the first camera, but since we added another camera, we're also going to simply add the second camera. So the best way to add the second camera is to go and select the second camera in the level. Then you go back to the level graph and you right click and you say create a reference to this actor that we selected in the level. And we've got the reference here. And all we need to do is to do the same thing again. So we're taking this security camera tracking 2 and assigning it to, my mistake. We're taking the pawn, asking it to set security camera 2, and we're assigning that level asset to it, and that's it. So here we go. We're done with the two things, or three things actually. In the pawn subclass itself, we added a security camera that variable where if you press the button 6, we're seeing it on the screen, on the computer screen. Then we added the actual actor, security camera actor in the level. And then inside the level blueprint, we assign that actor to the variable of the pawn once the pawn is ready. That's it. So we're done with the coding. It's rather simple, and we're getting back to our previously scheduled programming. Hey, welcome back. I hope the blueprint stuff wasn't too difficult to follow. It was in my opinion, relatively straightforward thing, which is a really cool thing about this framework. And so let's see now our new camera, which is kind of over there. And we're going to get to it. And we're going to switch to the camera by pressing the button 6 on the keyboard. So if you can bear with me for a moment. And there we go. We switched cameras, and let's move to the camera itself. Hello, here we are. As you can see, the camera is now tracking us, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So everything's working as it should be. And my work here is done. Thank you very much, and thank you for following me and my few tutorials.